Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one rated sportsbook app out there. I am your host, Rudolph, joined as always by AJ Haefele. And less than 24 hours after we break down everything about Devon Toews' possible arbitration, he is now signed with the Colorado Avalanche, signing a 4-year deal with a $4.1 million AAV average on it. And that's it. The Avs are now pretty much set in their offseason. They have $1.8 million roughly of cap space left to use to round out their roster with healthy scratches and or potential ELCs in their lineup. But
yep, they've got a 12-6-2 lineup. That means they've got enough space at 1.823614. That's how much they've got left. So
very specific.
That's Bowen Byram's 894, and that's Logan O'Connor's 725.
Yeah, that's about 1.6. So that gives them about 200K of flexibility with both of them on the lineup.
Yep. Done.
Right. Easy enough.
Now, if you really wanted to save $1 million, you just throw Jacob McDonald's 725 on there and call it good.
Yep. And then you have about $1 million to play with.
Mm-hmm.
That's
either way, they're done.
Yeah. Nothing more to do barring, having to move something out, which at this point, I don't think anyone's expecting.
No.
So
it wouldn't make sense. I saw the buyout Ian Cole stuff, and I was like, this doesn't make sense. You would just use the money that you saved on buying out Ian Cole to turn around and try and sign Ian Cole.
Right. Yeah, I don't think a buyout really makes any sense at all for the Avs. No. You'd be trading someone if you were going to go down that road, but
yeah,
we've seen the market is not great for dumping cap at the moment. So
yeah. I mean, what are they? Tampa Bay tried to give Tyler Johnson away to the entire league
for literally nothing. They put him on waivers.
Yeah.
And they could not move him.
Yeah. So good luck. Yeah, they could. I put LOC on there. You could put Couch's contract on there, but you can't put both. That's the takeaway here, is that they can't fill out a 23-man roster, which is completely fine because they don't have to. 22 of them is perfectly acceptable. You can get to 22 just fine. It's not a problem.
Yep.
And as the way that the daily cap calculations are done, once you're a month into the season, you stop worrying about it.
Yep. Contracts get significantly cheaper as the season goes on.
Yeah. That's why at the end of the season you go on Cap Friendly, and it's really funny because it's like, this team has $42 million in cap space.
Right.
And it would be like physically impossible for them to spend all of it. They could sign every player on their reserve list and call them up and put them on the roster, and it wouldn't matter.
Makar's bonus money will fall into the 5% range.
Yeah.
Of within the less than 5% above the cap.
Yep. So, as long as his bonus money is the only bonus money, it falls within that 7.5% buffer.
So
they'll be fine. They'll be able to apply it to this year's cap if they would like to. He also still has to earn it. He probably will. He's basically guaranteed to earn his Schedule A bonuses.
Yeah, that'd be
which are worth like $860K, something like that. And the Schedule B bonuses, they're the ones that really get. Those are the ones that get expensive. And he'd have to have the kind of like Norris-ish, level-ish year that we're talking about.
Yeah, that looks like 700K of his Schedule B bonuses is winning the Conn Smythe. So if he wins that one, I don't think anyone's going to be complaining about the extra money.
Yeah.
How about that? So let's talk about the guy who actually signed today, though, in Devon Toews. At $4.1 million, that makes him the fourth most expensive defenseman only. Ian Cole, Sam Girard, Eric Johnson, all making more than him on the Avs. So
suddenly an expensive defense.
Yeah, $23.5 million about getting paid to this defense.
Yep.
And then Makar going to get paid next year is going to increase that number pretty significantly.
Yep, you'll swap out Cole's salary and add Makar's, and then you'll understand why Byram's ELC is super duper important.
Yep, because Makar is going to make a lot of money. So Toews at 4.1 for 4 years is, I don't want to pat ourselves on the back too much, but AJ, that's almost exactly where you had it.
My original guess was 4 years at 4.5. So, and then as we were talking about it yesterday, and I said it had come back down a little, it had come down when I looked at comparables, I had it at 4.2. So that they got to 4.1, great. That's good work. It's a good piece of business. We talked about why 4 years was a really good term for both sides. Why 5+ was probably a little heavy-handed from the Avalanche side, and for this is where you can take advantage of a guy that's had the kind of path that Toews has had, because coming off of his ELC, coming off of his second contract, his bridge deal, like this is a guy that 2 years ago was just trying to make the NHL.
Yep.
And now he has a $16 million contract. Like whatever his take home of that is, he's set for the rest of his life. He's good. And that doesn't count any contract he signs for the rest of his career.
Right.
Because that dude could easily end up making a solid $30 million in his career.
Yeah. Pretty easily. He'll be 30 at the end of his deal, so it's definitely possible.
That's what I'm saying. He could easily get up into that range. So for him, this is a great deal. And it does change the expansion draft math, which was a conversation this morning as I was still waking up, and I was being kind of short with people on Twitter, just giving them 5 words because I was just waking up and talking to my fiance about a house that we're trying to buy instead of worrying about the expansion draft. Not everything is about Seattle's expansion draft, guys.
Except for Martin Kaut's eligibility.
I'm really curious what funny joke people are going to have when the expansion draft happens.
What's left after what's next? Yeah. What's the next horse to beat, I guess?
I don't respond to those tweets anyway. People have fun with it, and I'm like, okay. Yeah, I also am very busy working my second job, selling land in Texas, as you guys saw on Twitter today. I literally, if I didn't delete the messages, I would show you how many of these things I get. Where it's just, I get these text messages. They're always in Spanish, and they feature pictures of the land, and it's just like, okay, I'll give you. The guy today offered me $24,000 in cash after I ran the text through a Google Translate.
Is that a good price?
I have no idea. I don't know how much land it is. I get a picture of a shed with a busted ass fence around it, and I'm like, all right,
cool.
Another one of these, huh? The first one I got, I responded to the guy. I even responded to him in Spanish, and tried to talk to him, and he never got back to me. He never responded to me, and I was like, all right, whatever. Okay, and then this guy called me last weekend and left a super detailed voicemail about he and his partner were looking to buy up a bunch of land in the area, and they saw I had a plot for sale, and they thought it was a great price, and please get back to me. And then his partner called me the next day when I ignored it, and I was like,
oh God.
I was like, guys, I'm a broke ass sports writer living in Denver. You have got the wrong dude.
Who put like your phone number on their sign and is like going out of business because
right, because they're getting no calls.
Well,
I'm gonna if I could contact the person who's actually trying to sell it. I can't get a hold of them because their contact number is my phone number. But it'd be like, hey, I'll take this off your hands, I guess. I'm getting tons of offers on it.
Sure, just send me the $24,000 in cash.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, Venmo me that shit, I guess.
And then it's yours.
Yeah. Set up like a fake Venmo.
Well, if that doesn't work out for you, you can always ask Devon Toews to buy you a dinner because he's got enough money now to buy everyone a dinner. Was there a signing bonus, actually? Let me see. Let me see what the official numbers are. No signing bonuses at all.
Knowing the Avs, no.
Yeah.
But they did have a salary structure as such that pays him like nothing this year.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of a buyout structure.
Yeah.
Where his base, well, I guess that's not necessarily true, but his base salary in year 1 is 2.35, and then his base salary in year 4 is 5.9.
Yeah. So he's going to make just shy of $6 million in the 4th year of the deal.
Yep.
And that, they're hoping that by year 4, it's not like it doesn't, I don't think it has anything to do with the buyout. I think it has everything to do with the fact that players are losing a bunch of money to, no, I'm not drinking Hawaiian Punch. It's players are losing a bunch of money right off the top to escrow this year.
Yep.
Even more than normal. And then, with what's likely to be a truncated season, 50 games, they're going to make a prorated salary anyway. This fly will not leave me alone, man. And because of that, they've got they that's why they salary structure the way that they did, so that Toews has a better chance of actually making the majority of that money.
Yeah,
through the life of that contract. Because had they structured it 5.9 this year, they're just taking a huge chunk out of it.
Right. He's taking home significantly less. We do need to take our first period break there, so it is time to acknowledge Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. Way better than Hawaiian Punch or whatever it is AJ is drinking. What's he got over there?
Welch's strawberry kiwi juice cocktail.
All right, well, if you want, you can mix that with one of an amazing Breck Brew flavors. I don't know. I'm not a beer mixer. You have to ask RK on that one. But
I'm cleaning out my fridge because I'm getting ready to go to Canada for 2 months.
There you go. So, yeah, go on down to the DNVR bar. 8 different beers on a tap down there. Or you can always go to the farmhouse in Littleton, get it right from the source. Dozens of flavors of beer. They have a beer for everyone. Highly recommend them, even if you're out of state. You can go to your local liquor store, and I'm pretty much sure they'll have something from Breck Brew for you to try. We also, of course, have a Green Mountain Dental Group, the best family dentist in the Denver metro area, located in Lakewood, just 15 minutes from downtown. Super easy to get to, and when you schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam, you'll get a free Sonicare electric toothbrush just for taking care of your teeth. Be sure to tweet at us when you roll on down there, because we're just one big happy family trying to take care of each other, even in a pandemic. Taking care of your teeth is something important to do. Make sure it's good for your heart health. It's good for your overall health. Make sure you're on top of it and head on down to Green Mountain Dental Group and take care of your teeth. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook versus the fly in AJ's room. Devon Toews, we've talked about him quite a bit, obviously, over the past couple of weeks, but now that he's signed, how do you start to assess his value? Obviously, it's still going to be difficult. He's never played a game for the Avs, but you have a top 4 defenseman at $4.1 million.
Kind of depends on EJ's health, right?
I mean, that's definitely a factor.
Because if EJ is healthy for the start of the season, I would probably roll out Toews and Johnson.
Sure, as like a...
And then Graves and Makar.
And then EJ Byram, or rather Gerard Byram or something like that.
That's what I would do.
I mean, I don't really have a problem with any of those pairs, to be honest with you. So,
I mean, there's going to be somebody that's sort of odd man out.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
If EJ's healthy. If EJ's not healthy, then you're talking Byram and Cole is your easy third pairing. And it's, Toews is either next to... I personally would start Toews next to Makar, and I just think that there's safety in running it back with Graves and Makar. They did it so much last year that they would be comfortable with it, and so it's like, okay,
yeah.
I don't think it'll last very long. I don't think it's something that is going to stick. But because it worked last year, it makes sense to start with it this year and then figure out kind of how the rest of the guys fit.
It's just what NHL coaches do. They go to
exactly.
I agree with you. I would much rather see Toews and Makar together.
I have nothing against Graves. It's just that you went out and you got a guy who fits stylistically very nicely.
Yep.
The thing about a Toews and Makar pairing is that neither guy has played the Graves role on their pairings. Because Toews played next to Scott Mayfield last year. Mayfield did the Graves thing.
Yep.
Where he was the bigger, more classic defenseman who did the heavy lifting, if you will. And that allowed, and Toews jumped into the play and aggressively got out of the defensive zone. If both guys play that style, what does it look like?
Yeah,
how does it work? Is you just have to figure out how it works.
And I do think we're going to find out, as certainly long term, Toews is going to be asked to do a little bit more of being the defensive guy, and how he goes about that is how he's going to do it. But the Avs are going to lean on him defensively a little bit more, I think.
How it works is going to be very instructive because Bowen Byram plays that kind of style.
Yeah.
Where, Sam Girard plays that kind of style where they want to skate pucks out. They want to get up the ice quickly. They don't mess around with rimming pucks around the boards and up and out and chipping it off the glass unless they absolutely have to. Otherwise, those guys get out and they skate, man. So how it's going to work, like you don't avoid putting those guys together because you're afraid of that question. You have to answer that question because you've tripled down on that style of player. Even Justin Barron is that style of player that wants to skate pucks out. So even, projecting 4 years down the road, this is how you want to play. This is how you want to play. And so it's, what it looks like when both guys have that aggressive attack mentality, figuring it out is going to be a huge, basically what the regular season is for. How dangerous can they be when they're all like that? When all five guys on the ice are attacking?
That's going to be super interesting. There's a world where it just works.
Yeah.
And the Avs are this crazy, insane possession monster of a hockey team. And then there's the other side of it where it doesn't work. And the Avs struggle because they have two defensemen trying to play the same role on the ice and they can't figure it out.
Right. Where it doesn't mesh and one guy is always trying to fly the zone and the other guy isn't good enough on defensively to kind of hold down the fort, if you will.
Yeah.
And, it just doesn't work. Like there's a world where this just doesn't work. This is why I've said the Avs are kind of a grand experiment in the way that they want to play, because nobody in the league plays a transition game the way Colorado does. Nobody plays such a controlled possession focused style of game the way that the Avs do. The vast majority of the league is still playing dump and chase to some degree. Colorado avoids it to an extreme degree versus the rest of the league.
Mm-hmm.
And so watching them go out and get a guy like Toews, who's already good at what they were already good at. You replace Nikita Zadorov, who wasn't good at that, with Toews, who is good at that. How does that trade-off make you better or worse, offensively and defensively? And that's, and how he works with Makar, that's just the beginning of it. How he works with Johnson or Girard, whatever. That's just the start of that conversation.
Yeah.
They're going to have to spend the whole year trying to figure out optimal pairings, which guys work in which settings, because it's not as clear-cut as it was when you had Zadorov, Cole, and Graves and Johnson as 4 of your 6 defenders. You had very clear-cut, obvious, this is what this pairing is trying to accomplish. This is what this guy is trying to do in this zone. Now these guys are all hybrids, and it's a very different conversation.
Right. I think it gets super interesting when you start talking about special teams. We've already talked about Toews potentially being the third defenseman on this, or the second defenseman on the second power play alongside Girard.
Yeah.
But then you get into the PK conversation as well. Look, obviously EJ is going to PK. If Ian Cole is in the lineup, he's going to PK. Ryan Graves is going to PK. But that fourth PK spot, or in some cases, if Ian Cole or Graves, is one of them is the guy that's sitting, then you need to fill 2 PK spots with this lineup. You assume Toews fills one of them, or they at least try him on the PK?
I do.
But even then, you still have to give a Sam Girard or a Bowen Byram that fourth spot at times.
I don't know why. Is Cale Makar your all situations monster or not? I'd start giving him the look.
You could do it with Makar too.
To be honest, I really would. I would start giving him the look and say, let's just see how this goes. He wouldn't be a guy that I would lean on really heavily early on, but kind of like what they did with Tyson Jost last year, slowly give him some opportunities and see how he does. We saw Jost looked really good on the PK. Okay, great. Give him more time. If Makar looks great on the PK, great. Give him more time. If it's a total disaster, then change it up. But for me, I would just say, look, like, Cale Makar is going to be your ride or die on defense for a long time. He's your core defensive piece next to Sam Girard and you hope Bowen Byram. And when you get into the special teams thing, it's like, what good does it do a guy to be really big and physical in front of the net if he's not taking away a stick, if he's all he's doing is using that size to screen his own goaltender? So I'd rather have a guy with stick skills, puck skills.
So what if you flip the script then? What if you don't even run PK pairings? You just roll your 3 defensive pairs as on the penalty kill for the Avs.
Fine. I don't have any objection to that. I like Girard's defensive game enough where I'm like, look, I think physicality on the PK is overrated. I don't think it's overrated at even strength when you're constantly cycling and board battling, but I would rather have guys with that can make plays with the puck that are really good with their stick. Because on the PK, that's more important. You're not getting into very many board battles. You're not getting into your biggest like scrum is going to be in front of the net where it's all chaos and funny bounces anyway. Take your chances with the guy that's got higher skill with the puck and isn't just blindly swiping at things and hoping for the best. I would much rather have somebody that's skilled with their stick and with the puck in space, which is all PK and power plays are. It's just the abuse of space. So I have no issues with that. I've long thought that the PK thing was
whack.
I just think it's one of those old school things that hockey never got away from, and they never tried something different. And for me, it's you're already down this path of going with transition players, great skaters, and puck skill on the back end. Go all in with it. Try it out on your PK and see how it works.
It is an interesting conversation as the penalty kill is one of the critical failures in the playoffs for the Avs. Now, granted, just because they couldn't get a goaltender to make a save, but
they kind of go hand in hand. One of the old adages in hockey happens to be correct, of course, is that your goaltender has to be your best penalty killer.
Yep. Definitely true, but it's a lot easier for your goaltender to be your best penalty killer when the players in front of him are giving him a lot of one and done opportunities.
Yeah.
So it can go both ways, to say the least, on that front. And I know this is a word I've used a lot about the Avs lineup, but versatility is what all of their moves have created for them.
Definitely. It's kind of been what a lot of their moves have been about for the last couple of years now.
Yep.
Where they've just been going out and getting guys that fit into different situations however you want. Where you could fit Burakovsky in 3 different combinations and you're still going to get something good out of him. Same thing with a guy like Brandon Saad. We've talked about if you want to go with an ultra defensive heavy lifting line, you can.
Yeah.
If you want to just put him in a position to go to the front of the net and, play pigeon and bang pucks home, you can. You can do whatever you want with a lot of these guys because they have a lot of different skill sets. There aren't a lot of guys on Colorado they're good at one thing. And that's the one thing they do. And you move on. There's just not a lot of those guys. And the ones who are limited guys. Like they're your role players, your hard role players, your Logan O'Connor, your Tyson Jost, your Pierre Edouard Bellemare, even your Matt Calvert. Those are the guys that fit into a very specific niche into your lineup, and you're fine with that.
Your fly is getting some camera time right now.
Dude, I see him flying around, and I'm just like...
If you smacked your forehead, you might have got him. But
he saw the attention that Mike Pence's fly got.
Yeah, right.
He was like, how can I get in on that?
Need some of that acting action.
Yeah. I don't have the super white hair for him to land on.
That's true. Yeah, it doesn't pop quite as much on a black hat.
Yeah. The black fly on the black hat doesn't look good as the black fly on the white hair with the HD camera set up.
Minor differences in the video quality between the debate and us, but
that'll be my Halloween getup for this weekend or for this Friday. Is I'll wear Mike Pence hair. That's so the fly can land on it.
I need Chat's opinion on that. Actually, should I do the mullet for Halloween? Because I can do an okay mullet.
Should you do the Barry Melrose?
Yeah, exactly. We do need to take our second period break here, as we do have to acknowledge Chevalier Mortgage with Mike and Virginia Chevalier. Not only are they longtime Denver Broncos fans, but they are CSU alums as well, and they've been longtime members of us here at DNVR. So be sure to hit them up. You can call Virginia directly at 303-257-6578 or visit them at dnvrmortgage.com. When you go over to their website, you can get a choice of a free DNVR shirt, or hat of your choice when you win their raffle contest. So at very least, head over there to try and win yourself some free merch. That's the good stuff. But when you're there, you can also get set up with a free consultation to discuss all of your options when it comes to mortgages, buying a home, and just your whole financial picture. Since your home is likely to be your largest asset and your mortgage your largest debt, they believe it's vital to consider your full financial picture when purchasing a home. This includes considering your short-term and long-term planning goals, your investments, and your tax situation. Mike and Virginia will work tirelessly to find the best loan for your situation. So again, visit them at dnvrmortgage.com. Michael Chevalier, NMLS 1931006. Virginia Chevalier, NMLS 1910631. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Cygnus asks, what is the Avs' weaknesses now?
Still high-end defense, I think. There still isn't that one...
Makar isn't quite there yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, as of today, 6 months from now, this may not be true anymore, but as of today, there is not that top pairing that you just say, hey, we're going to throw out there in every major situation to go do a thing.
And
it just isn't there yet.
There's You're correct. Even if you fully believe that Cale Makar is a future true number one,
definitely, you still got to do it.
You still need a number two, and I believe that's Bowen Byram, but it's not going to be Bowen Byram day one.
Right. I mean, we're talking that's Bowen Byram in 2 or 3 years.
Right. So that is a fair assessment. With that being said, having 5 top 4 defensemen is pretty solid.
It's a good, like it's like it was last year, 1 through 6. It's a good group.
Yep.
1 through 7. It's a good group, but you just need that. This is what Pietrangelo is going to bring to Vegas.
Yeah,
is that he is that all situations guy where you start a unit and you're like, all right, he's our guy.
Literally every time his shift is up, he goes out there regardless of situation.
Yeah, like, all right, different game situation, cool. Pietrangelo time. It's the value of having that horse at the top of your defense. We're hoping that Makar takes the next step into that guy this year. We're hoping, they're hoping. We're kind of expecting it.
Yep.
We see that future for him, but until we see it, until it actually happens, it's a weakness. Right? Until you develop that into a strength, it's not there yet. And so I think that's probably a weakness for right now. I mean, if I say
mitts there, yeah.
if I say goaltending, I mean like the third goaltender.
Yep.
And I don't think that there's a single organization in the entire NHL where I would say third goaltender is a strength.
Yeah, right. The best third goaltender in the league might be like Askarov or something.
It's a situation in Dallas where they have Jake Ottinger.
Yep.
Or they have a top prospect, like a top prospect. It'll be where Colorado is in a year with Justus Annunen. Like that's it. Like, obviously, until the PK shows improvement, until the power play shows improvement, special teams are going to be a weakness. And that's a pretty good weakness when both of them are league average.
Yep.
Obviously the PK fell apart in the postseason and the power play struggled. The power play went from scoring every single game for like 9 games to struggling. But
that's
part of that is just how it goes in the playoffs.
This is the reality of the Avs that we're talking about now. This is why sports books are picking them as the favorite to win the cup, is because their weaknesses are league average. They're not really weaknesses.
Right. They're weaknesses relative to the rest of the strengths on the roster, but they're not really like major weaknesses. Like people go crazy over the power play. I had a guy tweet at me and was like, "Wow, imagine with this group only scoring 2 out of 10 every opportunities." And it's like, that's 20%.
Yeah.
Like,
you'd like to see more, but that's going to do fine for you. Yeah.
You want it to be 25%, but 20% is exactly like you'll live at 20%.
Yep.
Like you're productive at 20%. It's the 7% that you have to avoid.
Yep.
It's the big thing that we don't ever really talk about with special teams is we're talking about really small sample sizes, and you're susceptible to streaks of extremes where you could score 3 power plays in one game and then you go a week and a half without a power play goal. That doesn't necessarily mean that the power play isn't even playing well.
Right.
Sometimes that's just how it goes.
The puck don't go in for you sometimes, but it's, as Evan said earlier as well, he said without Z, you don't need a PK anyway.
You take Z and Cole out of the lineup at the same time, and there goes half your penalty problem.
Well, the Avs had the best penalty differential in the league as far as minors were concerned, with Z being like -18 or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
So they're going to benefit a lot from just being on special teams more than opponents.
Yeah.
It's a hard team to beat.
When you play the way that the Avs do, you draw a lot of penalties naturally because when you're skating and everybody on your team is skating, the other guys are reaching. You know, they're stick infractions or tripping guys, et cetera, those types of things, right?
Yep.
So it just naturally draws calls that are easy to make when guys are, you know, throwing sticks into guys' feet because they got beat by half a step and now they're trying to play catch up, and the Avs are full of great skaters who separate in the blink of an eye. You know, it's stuff like that.
Yeah, they're nasty. At 5-on-5, this team is disgusting.
There's a really good chance that they are going that they have built this team to be one of the better 5-on-5 teams that the league has seen over the last decade.
Yep. Straight
whether or not that bears fruit, we'll see. Especially in a truncated season, you really don't know what you're in for. They are going to be more like, we're really excited for next season, but seriously, if it ends up being like 50 games,
sprint to the finish type stuff,
you are very susceptible to wild percentage swings.
Yep.
Because if somebody has a hot month, you remember
they're in the playoffs. Yep.
Yeah. Do you remember Patrick Laine 2 years ago?
Yep.
Had a 30-goal season and 17 of them
in 1 month. Yeah.
Came in November.
Yep.
And it's like, you could have that kind of month. You could have the exact opposite too. You look at Andre Burakovsky's season last year. He was a point per game player in every month except one in December, where he had like 3 points in 12 games.
Mm-hmm.
If you only have 2.5 months of a season, and one of those months is that month,
you're looking real bad. Yeah.
Yeah, like you had a really disappointing down year. So it's gonna be really like, they're gonna be teams that probably make the playoffs. Like, there's gonna be an LA or an Ottawa or a New Jersey or a Detroit that sneaks into the postseason. And there's gonna, a San Jose. There's gonna be a team that you think right now that you're thinking, like a St. Louis. It could absolutely be Colorado, where they just randomly miss the postseason in a short season and then come back the next year and whoop that ass.
Yep.
You just don't know. Like, it's something we haven't talked a lot about this offseason, but teams are going to be more susceptible to the extremes of sample sizes and random percentage swings. Even if their process is good and sound, there won't be the same amount of time for the results to even themselves out over 82 when you cut 30 of those games off. Yep. It's going to be wild, man. It's fun, but it's also just like...
a little tense.
Because you just don't know. You just don't know. We could go back and we can look at the lockout shortened season.
I mean... you don't have to look any further back than last year. If in a shortened season, Grubauer and Francouz go down, they're done. If they miss a month in a normal year, you can recover. If they miss a month in a 40-game season, they're done. There's no way that their third goalie can push them through.
Yeah. Well, look at, talking about extremes here, look at Dallas last season. If they had a truncated regular season... Yeah. You remember they started like 0-7 or something on the year. Like,
Dallas they started awful and they were ending awful.
Right.
It was the middle bit that got them into the playoff position.
Well, and they responded to the awful start by having their biggest win streak of the year, where they won like 10 games or something.
Yep.
And they pulled themselves right out of the immediate hole that they dug, but then they were at 500.
And whichever section of the season you cut out for them drastically changes who they are. So.
Exactly. Like, it's going to be interesting. And then, to tie this back into where we started today, a guy like Devon Toews, you're hoping that the talent level buoys some of those extremes, that there's going to be so much talent on the team that there are going to be some guys that have down years that we aren't expecting right now. If the talent level is high enough on the rest of the team, you can survive that. This is the rising tide raises all boats situation.
So let me ask you this. Devon Toews, Colin Miller, Josh Manson. Who would you have? Rank them.
Today?
Probably
Toews, Manson, Miller. Today.
I like that answer.
At the time those contracts were signed, probably Manson, Toews, Miller.
And then Manson.
You got to remember, like
cliff, but yeah.
Josh Manson, when he signed that deal. P.S. Josh Manson, his agent, Devon Toews' agent, which is not surprising when
really
it ended up being a comparable
$4.1 million contracts.
Yeah. Josh Manson at the time he signed that contract would be a perfect fit on this Avs team.
He signed that contract and then doesn't have as many points as in the year he signed the deal since then, but
that's how it goes.
Those things happen. I look once again for the fourth or fifth show this offseason, I get to sit here and say the Avs made themselves better.
Without a doubt. Devon Toews is an upgrade over Nikita Zadorov. How he fits is still to be determined. But just a player, if you were starting a team tomorrow, Toews would be significantly higher in terms of your value than Zadorov would be.
Yep.
And that's the only NHL move. That's the only NHL roster replacement. Unless you're counting Brandon Saad replacing Nemesnikov and Nieto.
Which
it's
like really line up, yeah.
It's like Saad with Nemesnikov and Jost with Nieto.
Yep. So
Then Toews was Zadorov. You got better. Yeah, injuries are definitely going to be a question mark. Can they stay healthy? The only way you know that is to go out and play, though.
That's a question mark for every team, though, right?
Yeah, and the Avs may not suffer any injury luck this year.
Yep.
They might get through, and the only injury that they have is
Belmont.
Matt Calvert has appendicitis come the postseason because he's not allowed to play playoff games for the Avs.
Yeah.
Whatever. You never really know. You're always just, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
that's the tagline for all of next season. I think.
If injury luck is your biggest weakness, is the biggest question mark going into the season, can you get lucky with injuries? You're a pretty good team.
Yep. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. The hype train for the Avs is real. So
yeah, it's not like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, you guys are homers and you guys are just fanboys and blah blah blah. But it's look, Vegas has them at number one.
Yep.
It wasn't like we made that call. The people who are the best in the business at this have them ranked number one.
They were 2 points out of first place in the West last year, and objectively, the team is better.
Right. And especially when you look at relative to the teams around them. Dallas hasn't made any significant moves to get better. An old team got 1 year older and a touch more expensive. Vegas, we've talked how Vegas and St. Louis made big moves, but they came at big costs.
Yep.
Pietrangelo,
sure, on St. Louis's side.
Yeah. You lose Pietrangelo, you get Krug. And then on the other side, you get Pietrangelo, but you lose Schmidt.
Yep.
Those are you end up St. Louis gets a little bit worse and Vegas gets a little bit better.
Yep.
But neither one of them are clear cut. Your team took a big step forward this offseason without a doubt.
Right.
It's not there. The Avs, Brandon Saad, Devon Toews, and Cale Makar gets 1 year older. The scariest part about that is that Colorado's really young and talented core is going to get 1 year older. Now they're going to have to mess with Bowen Byram next.
Yeah.
Like, and then the year after that, you got to mess with Alex Newhook. Good luck.
They just keep coming. That's this is what we were talking about at the start of last season when we said the Avs are entering a new golden era.
Yep.
So,
yeah, the expectations are there again. Starting with last season, the expectations are back for the Avs. Colin has a great point that St. Louis moving on from Jake Allen could also be a really big deal. I always overlook that, but Jake Allen was huge for them last year because Binnington
was very blah in the second half. Yeah.
Right. Like he was just okay, and then he was bad in the postseason. Yep. Jake Allen had like a .930 save percentage as his backup last year. Like he was very, very good last season. They're kind of looking for their backup to do the same thing that Francouz did, to come in and play really, really well and push the starter. And the difference being that Jake Allen was always like a decent NHL goaltender.
Yep. Was
never the high-level starter that they hoped he would become, but he won a lot of games for them, and he was okay for a long time. Now they're banking on Ville Husso, who was a top prospect several years ago and completely fell apart.
Yep. Turns out keeping your first-round picks, man.
Yeah, well, and, Brad's making the observation, after Newhook is Annunen. Yep. After that is Barron. After that is whoever they take in the first round next year, or any of these other guys, Sampo Ranta or Mutala want to step up. Like, it could be any of these guys, right? Like, there's just a lot of talent right now. There's a lot of talent at all levels of the organization. I don't know how we end up talking about that every day. It's just reality.
Because
like I don't
like hockey, damn it.
I don't know how we get into the ins and outs of the Avs every day without ultimately coming back to one, to absolute top to bottom, first player to whatever the last numbered player would be. This is one of the most talented organizations in the league.
They have a guy who should have won the Hart Trophy at least once in his career, all the way down to the future of their organization in juniors still, or over in Russia or wherever they're playing. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a good ride. I don't know what's gonna happen next year, but over the next couple of years, I do believe we are about to see some of the best hockey Colorado has ever seen.
Yeah, I think it's going to be reminiscent of the 95 to 2002 run that they had, where they were just a powerhouse in the league.
Yep. So
you hope that they win 2 cups in that time. Like, you're hoping they experience the same kind of success, because nothing is guaranteed, but they've set themselves up to be nasty.
I think that's right there is just a good place to leave it. They're looking good. And it's going to be a fun ride. So,
Devon Toews signing a really, really solid, fair contract for both sides involved. Just another step to that.
Yeah. I think both sides are very happy with that deal. Great. On to the next focus for the team. And you know what? Your next focus might be at DraftKings Sportsbook to put a bet down on this hockey team before their odds get even worse. Yeah. There was a cameo from Dr. Rudo back there. It's true.
Do we want to talk about the expansion draft at all real quick? Because we haven't really touched on that point of this.
Sure. Just to reiterate, they're going to protect Toews. Yeah.
So with this right now, the math changes. It did when they signed Toews, really. Or when they traded for him, I'm sorry. When they traded for him, we already knew that him signing today doesn't really change anything.
Other than he's not walking the UFA in a year.
Right. It's basically Colorado will still very likely go the 7-3 route. 5 of those forwards, I think, are
pretty locked in.
Yeah. Depending on how you feel about protecting Brandon Saad as a 6th one.
how realistic him signing is. Yeah.
Right. So for right now, protect Saad. There's your tops. You have your top 6 locked in at forwards. And then you're protecting one of Jost, Comfer, Nichushkin, Donskoy. Pick one. I don't care.
Yep.
I know if I pick one, somebody in the comment section will fight with me.
Yeah, YouTube not happy with us when we said expose Donskoy and Comfer. So.
Right. You pick whichever one you want and then expose the other guy, and that's totally fine. And then on defense, the situation with Erik Johnson is easy. It's very straightforward. He has a no movement clause. He's auto protected. The Avs ask him to waive it. He says yes. He waives it. He probably doesn't get picked by Seattle. He's a 32-year-old defenseman with 6 years left on his deal. If he does that, great. Like if they take Erik Johnson, okay, they take Erik Johnson. You just cleared up $6 million off Colorado's cap for the next 2 years.
Yep.
Basically, they re-sign everybody and drop an ELC in there again. No problem. Like, not to say they wouldn't miss Erik Johnson. Great guy, great leader, great intangibles, all that. But on ice, they may not miss him very much.
I think the reality with EJ is a lot of people still think of him as the Avs' number 1D. And their defense is just too talented for that to be true anymore.
He might be their 3rd or 4th best defender today.
I would say there's a good argument that he's number 4.
I would agree with you.
And while it's someone you don't want to lose, he's a lot more expendable today than he was even 2 years ago.
Yeah, definitely. So that's where you ask him to waive.
Yep.
He says yes, whatever happens, right?
Yeah.
You don't pay to protect him. You don't pay to protect anybody. The Avs don't need to do that. If he doesn't say yes, you buy him out. Yep. He has a $2 million cap hit against your cap for the next 4 years because he'll have 2 years remaining.
Yep.
And that's that.
Yeah, it's very straightforward from the Avs perspective, I think.
Yeah. This big brain idea that's going on in the comments right now, you let Landy go to UFA and re-sign him after the expansion? Why would you take that?
That's nonsense. Don't do that.
Because what will happen is, and we have seen this time and time again, when guys get to the market, they almost never come back.
It's not just that. Landy would be entering UFA in his prime.
Right. Seattle, with all of the money on their entire cap to spend,
yeah,
they have a window where they will get to negotiate with potential free agents before the expansion draft. They would be able to talk to Landeskog and say, "Hey, we'll give you a 7-year deal at $8 million," and the Avs are like, "Holy crap,
we're not paying that much."
That's a huge problem for us.
Yeah.
And then goes back to the Avs, and the Avs are like, we'll give you 6 years at 6.75. And then he leaves.
Loyalty is a two-way street, though, Tony. You can't say, all right, we're going to let you go to UFA, but
right.
Like,
we're going to big brain this so hard. We're trying so hard to keep JT Compher or Jonas Donskoy that we're going to let our captain go into free agency, get a feel for how much money he can make in it, and then try and convince him to come back. Because they could just select the guy and spend a month hammering away at him like, hey, we want you to sign. And he's gonna spend that entire time being like, oh, my brand new baby girl doesn't want $50 million. That's not the best thing for me.
Yeah.
So I can make $35 million and stay in Colorado. Like, I'm sorry. I'm just not taking that chance.
I would.
This is the big brain play that sounds great in theory. This is the same. Why not sign Devon Toews to an offer sheet instead of trading for him?
If we're being honest, I think that might be the one move left this offseason for the Avs is to extend Gabe Landeskog.
Yeah. That's absolutely where their focus should be at this point, because you're trying to mess around with your captain getting into free agency, you reap what you sow at that point.
Yep.
If it works, they don't select him. They take Tyson Jost. You re-sign Landeskog and everything is fine. Great. You big-brained it. You did an awesome job. You rolled the dice in a huge way. And what did you get out of it? Why do you need to protect Comfer or Donskoy or Nichushkin or whichever guy, whoever that seventh guy is, that you're so desperate to protect? Why are you that desperate to protect that seventh forward? Who's really your eighth forward?
A dude who's providing you significantly less than Landy.
Yeah. Why would you ever take that chance?
You're talking about the EJ side, Tony. Okay, I see. I'm not sure how you're implying the loyalty factor, but Sakic has certainly shown himself to be a savvy businessman when it comes down to it.
Yeah, like it's business, and like the chances that Eric Johnson gets drafted by Seattle just aren't very high.
Yep.
If you're starting off a brand new franchise, would you rather a 26-year-old Ryan Graves for 2 more years at $3 million, or a 32-year-old Eric Johnson for 2 more years at $6 million? Which one?
Seems pretty easy choice to me, but
also if Eric Johnson doesn't waive if he doesn't waive the NMC and the Avs say, hey, either waive or we're going to buy you out, Eric Johnson just turned down $4 million in guaranteed money.
Yep. And there's no way the Avs go 4-4. They just lose a better player that way to protect EJ.
If you go 4-4 and you don't protect EJ, why did you do that?
Yep. Yeah. It's you lose, I guess. So here's the question. Obviously, they protect the big three. Let's assume fourth is probably Kadri. So you lose one of Burakovsky or Saad.
I would protect Burakovsky over Kadri. Kadri only has 1 year left on his deal, and you have Alex Newhook coming.
So you lose Kadri then. Would you rather lose Kadri or EJ? And the reality of the situation there is not just would you rather lose which one of those players, it's which one of those players is more likely to get picked.
Yeah, and the buyout conversation, it's only $2 million against the cap. It's not a huge number. It's a manageable number is the thing. And with so many ELCs, and with so many ELCs that they can reasonably bring up, there's just no reason for this.
Right. The big brain play is unnecessary here. Just
it's extremely simple. Eric Johnson waives his NMC, and Seattle takes whoever they take, and then you move on.
Yep.
He doesn't. You buy him out. Seattle takes whoever they take, and you move on. It is not complicated. This does not need to be hard. You don't need to play 4D chess. It all comes down to, does Eric Johnson say yes and take $12 million, or does he say no and take $8 million and then go into free agency and try and recoup that money elsewhere?
Yep. That simple.
Especially a guy with his injury history. If he's turning down $4 million, he must really believe that he's going to make that money up elsewhere. He might. I mean, teams do dumb shit for defensemen all the time.
What makes it particularly hard for EJ to do that is the cap situation right now.
Yeah.
Do you really think you're going to get that type of deal in a flat cap era where we don't know what the cap's going to look like in a couple of years?
Yeah. I mean, what does he get, really?
Yeah.
I think the market will be, I've said this a few times, but I think the market will be easier next year because teams will have planned for it. They will have this in mind, whereas this year,
it was scramble mode.
It just showed up on everyone's doorstep, and they were planning for a $2 million bump. Instead, this, they will be planning multiple years of this is a flat cap. So they don't need to. EJ doesn't need the LTIR. He doesn't need to just go to Robida Island and just disappear. There's no. I mean, he's still a productive NHL player when he's on the ice. There's no need for that either. This isn't like such a dire situation that the Avs are like, please go away. That's where if it was that dire, they play him this year and then they buy him out no matter what.
Right. It wouldn't be an issue, but yeah.
With Eric Johnson, it's really, really simple. And you don't want to lose Eric Johnson. You want him to be here for this run. He's been stuck in Colorado during all of these horrible seasons. You would hate for the guy to miss out on potential cup runs. This is not a personal thing. It's the expansion draft forces hard decisions, and he's that decision. And that's just the reality of it at this point. That sucks.
It's super the ultimate outcome of so many contracts. At the end of the day, the NHL is a business. And if you want to win Stanley Cups, someone like EJ's got to waive a contract. Someone like EJ's got to get bought out sometimes.
Yeah. To be honest with you, the Avs exposing free agent Brandon Saad and Seattle just taking that dude and signing him to a contract.
Yeah.
Makes plenty of sense, but then if Seattle's going to big brain it, if that guy's going to go to market anyway, why would you take him from Colorado?
Right.
You're going to have more cap space than anybody in the league to know what you want to do with. Take a good player from Colorado and then sign Saad in free agency. Now I'm big braining it for Seattle.
I think that's the play, though. If you're the Avs, let Seattle do the big brain plays and have to navigate those waters while you say, look, we protected the guys we wanted.
Yeah.
Take your guy.
100%. If you protect Brandon Saad and then he turns around and leaves in free agency, that sucks.
Yep.
Is it that big of a deal? No.
Probably not.
Whichever guy you lose, the Nichushkin, Jost, Comfort, Donskoy, whatever. Whichever guy you lose, you replace.
Yep.
That's the reality of where Colorado's at the expansion draft is. They have the decision that they make with Eric Johnson. He waives the NMC, he gets bought out. And then after that, at every single position of the organization, they can replace whoever gets picked.
All right, well, Go Caps is here, so that means it's time to end the show because he just has a knack for showing up at the end of shows.
You wouldn't make a deal with Seattle to take someone specific because it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter who they take. You're in position to replace them. Why give up an ass? And look, if it's a 6th or a 7th round pick, and you're like, hey, take pending UFA Matt Calvert. Great, that's fine too.
The thing that we learned from the Vegas expansion draft is that paying a premium for them to pick someone always comes back to haunt you.
Yeah, it went horribly for the teams that paid real prices. I think the Islanders, it was like a swap of first round picks or something, and then they were like, take JF Berube. That didn't haunt them one bit. They were fine, right? They recovered from that okay. It sucked and it was expensive, but they made it through that. The player that got picked was not a big deal. Yeah. They're fine.
But when you're
that's the situation where you're like, okay, if you're going to do something like that, make sure that you're not losing a player that's going to.
When you're talking about the difference between picking Comfer and Donskoy, the difference between those two players is not that much. So why would you give up significant assets to change which one they take?
Well, and why would Seattle take a 5th or a 6th round pick? Colorado's going to be one of the better teams in the NHL next year. They're going to have one of the better player pools to pick from, unless the Avs are giving up a big piece to select someone specific. Seattle should just be like, we don't want a 5th round pick to take Matt Calvert, we don't want a 5th round pick to take Ryan Graves. We want to take somebody specific. We want to take a guy that we really like to help us. I don't think that I don't think they're losing EJ during the expansion draft process anyway. I think it makes most sense for him to take the money, take the guaranteed $12 million, waive the NMC. He's not getting picked by Seattle, and then he plays out the rest of his contract with the Avs. That's where I think this is most likely headed. It makes the most sense for everybody involved. It's an easy solution. This is easy.
I think it's very straightforward. EJ if I was building an expansion team, EJ is not the player I would build around from the Avs.
Right. There's just no reason. I'm taking Ryan Graves. I'm taking one of the forwards, depending on what season he has. I'm taking Pavel Francouz.
Yep. I agree. So I think we're kind of wrapping up the expansion draft conversation.
Yeah, and we're going to do an expansion draft.
In the offseason, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're here.
Wow.
We're gonna do one at some point. We did one already, and then we wanted to compare that one to this one to the one that we'll do at the end of next season in a run up to the actual thing.
Yep.
So we'll do one. But no, you don't. If they take Eric Johnson, you're fine with that because that's $6 million off your books.
Yep.
And you've lost a guy that's not a $6 million player anymore.
And Connor Timmins is right there to replace him in the lineup.
Right. Connor Timmins is sitting right there. You know, I mean, if you go from EJ and Cole on your defense this year to Byram and Timmins next year, you're fine.
Yep.
And that's Colin with a great point. $6 million goes out the door. Brandon Saad has every reason to stay in Colorado.
Yep. So it's no one's saying they want EJ to leave, but
yeah, that's not the conversation. I'm not excited to get rid of Eric Johnson. He's one of my favorite guys. And he's the easiest guy in the world to root for. He's a genuinely awesome guy. He is also the only guy on the team that when you have a conversation with him, he looks you straight in the face and he refers to you by name. He's the only one. Landeskog is the other one who does it sometimes, but Landeskog is more of a multitask master where he likes to do other things while he talks to you.
I mean, he's the robot who's been trained for years to talk to the media. So
he's been a captain on every team in his entire life. So he's been doing all of this for a long time. But Eric Johnson's a great guy. I don't want anybody who listens to this to think that I'm trying to get rid of Eric Johnson or that I would in any way be excited about it. That's not the conversation. That's
just the reality of if Seattle wants him, and you deal with it.
Exactly. And yes, I don't make direct eye contact with Landy. It's just not fair.
Oh, I don't have the clip of McKinnon. I wish I did. Hold on. I can probably find it and we can play it to end the show here.
Yeah. Drew would know. Drew's been in that locker room with me a handful of times back in the day. That was a long time ago, man. It's crazy. It's crazy how many people have come and gone on the Avs beat and how it's changed even in just my time covering the team.
All right. Here's the truth about Gabe Landeskog.
And he's the hottest guy in the world.
Whoa, okay.
Hey, nothing wrong with that, bro. What do you mean?
No, I'm just saying, you don't want to leak. You don't want to leak.
True.
You're telling your stream, now they know your personal life.
Landy's an absolute man rocket.
What if your girlfriend heard you?
You probably thinks the same thing, bro. I don't blame him, man.
All right.
Landy's the hottest guy in the world.
Even
Mac have you seen the man?
Yeah. So, even Mac knows that.
Yeah.
He's total smoke show.
Yeah. He doesn't look him in the eye either because he just gets lost. Mac knows what's up. He cuts right through the nonsense.
Yep. On that note, we got to get out of here for the day. Thank you, everyone, for watching, listening, however you consume the podcast. Again, if you haven't joined us in the chat, highly recommend subscribing on YouTube to be part of the show live and chat at us as we talk to everyone. If not that, head on over to DraftKings Sportsbook and sign up for an account today. As we're now in full season swing, there's a ton of options, whether it be professional or collegiate sports, to bet on, and DraftKings Sportsbook has a great offer to celebrate the showdown in Happy Valley. DraftKings Sportsbook is giving all new users the chance to turn $1 into $100 when placing a bet on either Ohio State or Penn State. And on top of that, they're giving you $1,000 sign-up bonus. So you can get both this week if you sign up. Be sure to jump on that. If you haven't signed up for DraftKings Sportsbook yet, download their app now and use promo code DNVR when you sign up to get this can't-miss offer. Pick Penn State or Ohio State. All you have to do is bet $1 for the chance to win $100 if the team you pick wins. 100 to 1 odds. Why not jump on it? Might as well give it a go. Sign up for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires 25x playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. That is it for today. Toews officially signed. We have 3 more shows for the rest of the week. Maybe I will go with the mullet. We'll see. I'll save it for the Friday show if I do. But until tomorrow, we will talk to y'all later.